see and hear you, my friends.
Hello.
You didn't mess with me, Parker. Oh my gosh.
I said it at the same time as you.
That's how. Wow, that's impressive. I didn't even register it.
Yeah.
Hey, everybody! Welcome in. Welcome in. Guess we're here for Highlight Heroes with
We are.
the one and only Griffin.d.
Welcome.
Hello. Thank you for having me here.
Thanks for being here, man. We're super hyped to have you, and you're going to be in some shows here in the near future as well.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, I'm beyond stoked to jump into a cosplay ground. And yeah, just waiting. I'm waiting, anticipating the information that I'm going to receive to create a groundbreaking new character to torment and amaze everybody involved.
I'm excited.
Oh my god, man. Well, before we get into Highlight Heroes, our little interview show, can you tell the people where to find you?
So I am Griffin.d, Griffin.d on TikTok and on Instagram. On TikTok is where I do most of my Dungeons and Dragons related content. I have like an ongoing skit series of things that happen between quests for adventurers, just called Between Quests, because I have no budget. So the quests themselves would be very expensive to show, and I've just opted to, deal with the aftermath.
Everybody
and the
loves some
in-between.
good downtime. Downtime, like.
That's when the characters develop. Okay,
That's true.
The best
True.
role play.
So it's all character development.
Oh,
But
amazing.
that's it. That's all I've got.
God, that's so cool though, man. It's really neat. Like, if you guys aren't watching it, go over there, take a look. Okay, well, we're gonna do a few announcements, and then we're gonna learn more about you, take a look at what you're doing. But really quick, Parker, you start us off.
I do. All right. Thanks for being here, guys. Our next program is Friday at 7 p.m. Eastern. You guys can catch Off the Rails. Then you can sail with Conundrum Company on Saturday at 6 p.m. Eastern. And then this Sunday is June's episode of Roundtable, where Sarah is Coffee will be DMing and taking some players through an all-new TTRPG that we're testing out. Woo! So we haven't played this one on the channel yet, so I'm very, very excited about this one. But I'm going to let her do that announcement, I'm sure, on Friday. And then June 16th, Wednesday, coming up, is Ever's Changing Arena. So our little Wednesday series that we do once a month, DM'd by somebody different every time. So this time it'll be Mr. Adam. So that's our schedule. So it's actually Adam's first time DMing on the channel, so I'm super excited. He has DM'd for me before, so I'm excited for everybody getting to enjoy that. Yeah.
Oh
You're
my
up, Josh.
god. And none of this amazing content could happen without our fantastic sponsors. The first of whom is Skull Splitter Dice. Skull Splitter Dice, guys, they not only sponsor a lot of our program, but they also sponsor a fantastic giveaway that you can get in during the breaks, during our regular campaign shows and our one-shots and all that stuff. It's super good. In the meantime, we highly recommend you head over to their page, the screen chat, thanks, Sean, over at skullsplitterdice.com. Take a look at their amazing products. They're a great company. We really appreciate them. Of course, our second sponsor is the gooeyest of cube companies, Gooey Cube. Guys, if you don't have time to homebrew your whole own world, you can go to Gooey Cube. You can get yourself an entire world built for you, a bunch of supplemental material for D&D 5e game masters to use at their tabletops or in other D&D settings. It is beautifully made with wonderful maps, entire character sheets built out, character art done. If you just want to pop something on the table, get it done really fast, this is the kind of world building you want to check out. So go take a look at Gooey Cube. The link is in chat. Highly recommend it. Of course, we succeeded in our second community event. That's happening soon. We've settled on the date, so it's going to be, god dang it, I don't have it in front of me, 2 weeks out, I believe. Parker is double checking, but it's going to be, guys.
It is Thursday, Jackbox event, 7:30 p.m.
Woo!
EST.
So, very excited for that. A few weeks now on Thursday evening, all of our players in both campaigns are going to be playing Jackbox as their characters. So if you want to see Barney argue with Restrada and Demi over who actually wins, that'll be fantastic. You can do that then. And of course, check out our Twiki, our Wikipedia for Twee. It's got a bunch of information on our shows, on our campaigns. There's great synopses for OTR in there. There's all kinds of cool stuff that the casts are working on, so take a look at the wiki. And then, of course, the charity announcement, guys. The most important announcement we always say for last, guys. This month, we'd like, as a part of Pride, for folks to focus on the Trevor Project. Woo! Founded in 1998 by the creators of the Academy Award-winning short film Trevor, the Trevor Project is the leading national organization providing crisis intervention and suicide prevention services to lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, queer, and questioning plus LGBTQ plus young people under the age of 25. This is a population that faces a lot of stress, a lot of mistreatment, and the services provided by Trevor Project are fantastic. Before you spend money on subs, before you spend money on our merch store, any of that stuff, please click on that donate button in the About section, get over there, make a donation in our name, a friend's name, a family member's name, or hell, in your own name, whatever, just make a donation. We'd really appreciate that. Okay. I think that's it, my friends.
We did it.
We're there. Thank you as we got through all that, Griffin, for sticking with us. Yeah. Question time. All right. So, right out of the gate, I know you're not mini painting today. I know you're doing something a little different. So, what are you working on? What is?
I have collected a bunch of cool patches from all over Canada, like coast to coast, and I am just affixing them to an old bar apron that I have. So right now it's just Yukon, and it's Yukon brewing stuff. And if I find bartending work, or if I do any other like videos where this could be useful, then it'll get popped out. But I figured like meticulous little crafts, that's something that I can do. Yes. Mini painting and stitching, similar.
Yeah, I don't know, I don't stitch, but I assume they look similar. Yeah.
And sewing is a lot of the same sort of thing.
Same motor skills. Parker, what are you working on today?
I'm painting the same dragon. I've been painting for 3 weeks. Because unlike Josh, I don't buy minis every single week. And I don't have more than this.
Don't judge me!
I'm off stream because I'd have to go back to the comic book store, and I always end up spending like $75 because I end up buying another book.
Getting put on blast.
God, they don't call it plastic crack for no reason, which is...
I don't know.
That's what the community calls it. It's really bad. Sorry, guys, that's not very nice, but that is the community. I'm working on Gunpla. I'm going to be quiet. So I'm working on the Wing Zero Gundam Master Grade kit. We'll see how it turns out and how far I get. But now, Griffin, you may not be working on minis, but a little bird told me you have some mini painting experience.
Yeah, I do.
Tell us about it.
First off, this is obviously it's me in mini form, of course.
The true Griffin. God, that's beautiful, man.
Yeah, you know what? I might just glue this to the hood of my car. That's how much I appreciate it. I don't know if its durability will survive that. I'm gonna keep it inside.
You were saying it has a Mercedes engine, and then you just put the eagle on. That's it's
a special custom brand. And then this relic, this beautiful creature, the Belrog of Morgoth from Lord of the Rings Warhammer. That came out and definitely like flopped, but it was very hype when I was in high school, and that's when I painted this bad boy, and I think it's my biggest mini and probably my best.
Those are all like pewter, yeah. They're all metallic, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, that's cool. That's cool.
Mm-hmm.
Beautiful. Okay. Well,
I got stuck on the Griffin being you, and now I have a question. Have you ever played a D&D one shot where you were supposed to be you? Because all I'm picturing is an Aarakocra that looks like a griffin.
Yes!
That's all I'm picturing. All I'm picturing now.
Okay, this cosplay ground's gonna get a lot more difficult when I come in as the Aarakocra. But
I just, for some reason, you said that, and then my brain was like, the wings and that could work. Anyway,
I'm having thoughts. I haven't done that before.
That's perfect.
That would be great, though.
Now that I've thrown us off track, I'll get to my question. How'd you get into D&D?
Segways.
So like forever ago, my dad played Dungeons and Dragons when he was growing up. He played like D&D Advanced, and he played that with his 2 brothers, and then also my mother's 3 brothers that she had. And so I grew up hearing stories about D&D, but like never really played 2nd edition or anything. And then when I was in like grade 6 in primary school, so still very young, 3rd edition came out. and my parents were doing like a Christmas shopping or something, and they saw it in like a chapter Indigo, and they just were like, here, this is we have that one child that we gave the nerd name, and they're fated to be this person. And then they gave me D&D 3rd edition, which I latched onto. I brought all the books to school. I forced other people to play with me. I played with my siblings and really fell in love with it. And then they revamped it with like 3.5. And then I was like, this is perfect. Nothing can touch this. And then my friends brought me 4th edition. And I was like, yeah,
Yep.
get that out of my face.
That's when everyone's
Heathen
playing Pathfinder.
blasphemy. And so it was, it's only recently, it's been maybe 6 or 7 months that I've been playing 5e, because I was like a 3.5 purist, and 4th edition gave me a lot of trust issues. Because it just played like a video game, and that's not what D&D was in my mind. But
I mean, rightfully so on those trust issues, for sure.
yeah. So I think I've probably been playing D&D for like 15 years. So a lot of time. I should be better at it by now, but it's still always exciting. It's always fun.
You know, it seems like no matter how long you've been playing it, there's always a mistake
There's
to be
gonna
made.
be something, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, that's amazing, though. Okay, so you've been playing D&D all of this time. So, and you can answer in 3.5 if you want, but I want to know your favorite class to play.
I like classes that always have something to do, because I like being useful within the party, and I like having something always going on with my character. So druids and bards are really fun because they're supportive, they're interactive. There's always like something you can be doing that's like thinking outside the box, and affecting things in a positive way for your group. So I would probably say druid. Druid's probably my favorite class. It's also that, like, if I could be any class, I would love to be a druid. And being able to turn into animals, wonderful power fantasy. Their whole like affinity for nature and everything, very easy mindset to get into, like trying to keep everything in balance and like promote harmony. I like that. They tend to be very lovely beings.
That's very true. That's awesome, man. I've played a few druids in my day, and can confirm, fantastic class. Oh my God.
Yeah.
I have lots of plans for Druid.
Yeah, you do.
I love Druids.
I played
knows?
one evil druid, and that was also a fun time.
Okay.
They were obsessed with microscopic life forms that would like come, like diseases, plague, and like rot, and they thought that the purity of that sort of life had been lost on complex organisms, and they wanted everything to die in a terrible blight so that it could be replaced by like fungi and rot and terrible things.
Sounds like an amazing villain.
God, that's incredible.
Yeah. That was back in 3.5 too. So they prestiged into because prestige classes were a thing. And so they were a druid, but then there was another class you could get after you'd leveled as a caster for a while called a blighter. And so then they became that. And they were really cool. Part of that prestige class, because 3.5 is great, would make all of your wild shapes undead. And so just a terrifying thing to have to deal with.
Oh my God, that's amazing.
Yeah.
That sounds so creepy.
Yeah.
I
so
feel
much
like,
flavor.
and also walking up on a BBEG and them being the druid would be, I would just immediately be like, oh, we're fucked.
Yup.
Like, how many times can it turn into that big undead thing? A lot? Okay, I'm leaving. Good luck.
Bye.
Yup.
Bye. Okay, so do you have a favorite race to play?
Oh,
One that you lean
that's
more towards?
tricky. You know what? I'm a huge fan, and I feel like I'm very alone on this hill, but I like humans a lot. I can relate to them for some reason. I'm not sure why. But with the advent of 5e going through all the updated races and them in like this edition, I like furbolgs. Furbolgs make me very happy. And again, like I feel very one note here, but they're harmony, tranquility, helping your friends, and being really tall. I also relate to them.
Being really tall.
So like verbal, I'm like 6'4", so I'm
I
like,
love that as a qualifier though, and being really tall. And I'm like, yeah,
Valid.
relatable. Okay.
I do like that motif for you, though. It is very on brand in every way, shape, and form. Furball Druid. Yes,
Yeah.
Sassy, we're talking about druids. The cat's here. Okay. So is there a class you haven't played before or in a while? A class you'd like to try next?
a class I have not played since I started 5e is Blood Hunter. And that is one that I would definitely like to play. When the Witcher was announced, like after Game of Thrones was a dumpster fire, and I wanted to love something again, I was ready for that, and so I pinned all of my hopes and dreams on that show, and it didn't disappoint me terribly. So I really liked their take on things. I'd read all of the books that had been translated from Polish.
Oh, wow.
And yeah, I was a big fan of the series, and then to hear that like Matt Mercer invented this class based around like the Witchers, I was like, that's really cool. And then reading into it, I think that there's a lot of like interesting flair and flavor that you can give a character related to that class. Because I mean, ultimately, I think that character traits and like the person that you're playing's like personality is always the trump on top of what their class is. The class is like lays underneath all of that, but it shouldn't be your character. Your character is always something else, but the class is going to influence their personality traits and stuff. So I just think that there's a couple cool things that you could do with having influences from being like a mutant or afflicted with lycanthropy that's like under control within you. There's just like neat ways to spice up things.
I mean, super valid. The one class I have actually never played or touched, and I'm always very curious about it. So
yeah, they're cool.
Yeah, and Matt Mercer's got a knack for very good flavor, so can't go wrong there.
Mm-hmm.
So let's see. Is there a race you haven't played or tried, or one that you would like to try?
Ooh. It's funny because it gets played all the time now, but it wasn't as much of a thing when I was playing D&D in 3.5. I'd played quite a few Aasimar, but I'd never done a Tiefling before. And I think Tiefling in 5e is really cool. I like the what they've done with their origin and everything, how they can just sort of spring up when you weren't expecting them. They don't necessarily have to be descended from like a direct pairing of tiefling or anything, or like a union of fiend and mortal. And a lot of the I mean, so many people are picking that for characters now, and I think it's beautiful because of the ways that you can customize them to look. And a lot of them look like the Draenei from like World of Warcraft.
Yes.
Or they can look like really classically infernal. And I like the idea of that. I was a WoW player back in high school, and I was like, I could just bring one of my Draenei to life in a little way here. I want to play a blue tiefling. Yeah.
My homebrew world, all of the tieflings are fully inspired by the Draenei.
That's perfect though.
Like, hell yeah,
that absolutely works.
It's such a good aesthetic and such a good lore to like pull from and play with. That's awesome, man.
I think you understand how happy you've made Josh by talking about Warhammer and World of Warcraft in the same like hour.
Yeah, it's
oh yeah.
Oh yeah. You speak my language, my friend.
Heck yeah.
Those are such big places for inspiration across a lot of things, so valid.
They are great places for it.
They really are.
Sorry, go.
God. No, I was just gonna. So you've told us your favorite classes, your favorite races, where you want to go next. Here's where the hot takes come in, though. Okay. Mm-hmm. Least favorite class to play.
Oh. Least favorite class to play. That's tricky.
It's tough.
I personally want to say like monk. just because as much as they have a lot of versatility and you have a bunch of like interesting things that you can do with movement and your like key, there's still a lot of barriers for them, and they don't tend to, and I'm probably wrong here. I've probably built them wrong or seen people play them in a way that makes them feel less like potent than they probably are. But there's a sense that they are going to get there fast and then not have a whole lot to do once they get there. So I'd much prefer some sort of like Warlock Hexblade if I was trying to manipulate things and blend magic and combat, or straight up fighter, or basically right into a caster class or right into like a melee class that can supplement some form of mobility.
Well, honestly, we've gotten a very similar answer a lot of times, and I tend to agree with you. It's like there's a reason everyone picks Aarakocra Monk, or, right? Like anything fast moving. They're like, it leans into a very specific element that is weirdly limiting in a way.
Yeah, and you do that thing very well. Don't get me wrong. You're the fastest.
Oh,
What happens when
Doesn't mean you're
can't
going to
do
win the
one
fight. You know? But yeah, and at the same time, I am very much a person who believes that, again, character trumps the actual class. And so you could have a monk who's a phenomenal character, super fun to play, and like drives the story. And they're not limited by that. But just as far as like the flavor that you pull from something goes, monk is just not where it's at for me.
Doesn't speak to you. That's valid.
Yeah.
Super fair.
Yeah. They also, back in 3.5, they had to be lawful. And that was just never me. There was alignment restrictions on all the classes back then. So bards had to be chaotic, barbarians chaotic, paladins lawful good. You could not be anything else. And if you ever were unlawful good in an instance in like a big way, then your gods were just like, hey, no more powers for you. And you had to find like a 7th level cleric to cast atonement on you.
Do you
It was
miss
a weird
that?
time.
Just like a side question, do you miss that element of the game or not?
So I have rose-tinted glasses about it. Like, there's a lot of stuff that I know that I enjoyed about it because it was specific to it, and it's kind of like playing in somebody's homebrew world where there's a bunch of arbitrary rules. I don't think that the rules fit or blend well in this day and age with all the different interpretations people have for the game. But I do miss it. It's like, calling back to the World of Warcraft reference, it's like vanilla WoW.
Yeah.
How everybody's got the fond feelings for it, but then you look at it and you're like, oh, no. I stood in that field killing boars for 2 hours until one of them dropped the thing that I needed. That's
the best metaphor ever, man. Because I went back to Classic when it launched, and I was like,
yeah.
God, I remember this being a lot more fun.
Yeah, exactly.
Like 10 years ago, 15 years ago.
Yeah,
that's very apt. That's interesting. Yeah. And that doesn't remove your enjoyment from it. I'm sure if you went back to it now, you'd be like, fuck yeah. Yeah.
No, I'm playing around with the idea of pitching on Somewhere Bound, me DMing a 3.5 set campaign is like a one shot or like a quick couple of sessions.
Like a little mini
where
series.
I'll force everybody to make like prestige class characters, because that's something that I feel is missing from 5th edition, was the fact that like there were just so many weird classes that you could only level into once you hit a certain point. And it customized your character in like really interesting ways, instead of immediately going like, well, I'm a paladin of vengeance or like oath of devotion. It was like, no, you're just a paladin. But when you get to level 6,
then
you can become so many other things. You can become a dragon slayer. You can become a shadow dancer. You can become an eldritch knight. You can like just go off into like a completely different path that sort of levels your class abilities.
That's like, we play in a Pathfinder 2e campaign. And it maintained
Very
a lot
nice.
of that. It's very good.
Yeah.
It's a lot of fun. Those systems they're deep, right? Like, it's that entry level thing where when you're starting off, you're like, this is a lot. But if you've got a little familiarity with TTRPGs, you're like, okay, yeah, I can get behind this. Give me that.
Yeah.
Give me that skill tree system.
Yeah. Yeah, and then it's fun.
Yeah.
I really think that 5e is a better blend of user friendly and open. I don't know. It's an open system that it takes interpretation of it very well, and it's more adaptable for a lot of groups that are playing than 3.5 was. It's a lot less clunky, that's for sure. But I still think that there is a place for the old clunky, it works. It's cute. It has its own charm because of that.
Two very different games, honestly.
Nostalgia.
Yeah.
Exactly.
I enjoy playing both systems, and there's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah.
Choice.
Just means
We're
you have
lucky.
more games.
That's right.
Mm-hmm.
Preach, Parker. Preach.
Just means you have to play more than one campaign. Is what I figured out. So, let's see. Do you have a least favorite race to play, or one that you just don't feel like you lean into very much?
Gnomes. Weirdly enough.
Because they're so small.
I just like halflings. I like halflings for my small race of people that are short. I'm like, give me a halfling, a goblin, a kobold, all great. If I want somebody who lives underground, I'll go with a dwarf. I've just always worked around them, and I think what it is growing up, my brother's main character that he would play was this gnome, and I just never touched that. I was like, you can have your gnome. I'm gonna play this really edgy, half drow, half human rogue with 2 vorpal swords, and I'm gonna run around with my cloak of raven feathers, and you can be your fun little inventor, nerd.
I'm too edgy for this.
I was way too edgy for it. You have no idea.
So there is... I'm starting to intuit, and this just dawned on me as you answered no. There is, among 3.5, and some people have been playing the D&D space for a long time, there's a secret war going on that is it gnomes or halflings. I swear to God, I've had this conversation.
Yep.
If you talk to one person, they're like, I don't know why gnomes exist when there's halflings. You talk to another person, they go, I don't know why halfling exists when there are gnomes. There's a secret war out there of people that are either gnome camp or halfling camp. And I swear to God, right, Parker, right?
It's true. Sean's the first person I've ever had that conversation with. He's like, what is this? Why is this a thing? And I'm like, I don't know.
I did not know this, but I've just become one of the most zealous warriors for the halfling faction. There is...
take your gnomes, you nerd.
Oh, that's so good. I love this very much. This is a thing that has to exist now.
I want a poll now or something where we're like, okay, which side are you on?
Are you team gnome or halfling?
Team gnome or
Which one of them
halfling?
shouldn't exist?
It's just a little secret war going on. That's amazing. Okay, so we've got 2 more questions left on our list, and then we're opening it up to y'all. So prepare your questions. These are usually the better ones, Griffin. So get ready. But before that, so you were telling us a little about your content creation process and where you do things. But how did you get into this? How did you end up on TikTok doing what you do? What's the origin story of Griffin.d?
So I was just doing my thing, tootling around like a nomad, making pals here and there, pretty carefree in my life. And then the pandemic hit, and I was like, I'm stuck inside. Everything's boring. This is boring. I'll find ways to entertain myself. And then I downloaded TikTok, and then I was like, okay, this is bright and shiny and the noise is good. I will continue this. And I was watching it, and I still remember Sarah is Coffee is one of the first people that I followed, because she was doing D&D content creation, and I was like, oh, this is like reigniting that. I can't play with my friends right now because all of our games were in person, and we again I am old school, so it was D&D night. We would meet up in someone's dark basement, pretend to be elves, order pizza. It was great. There was none of this fancy internet stuff happening. So I was just like, oh yeah, like I could think of some funny things to do with this. Like I liked the skits where it would just say like barbarian, bard, and they'd have like an interaction between the two of them. And it's like, haha, they are so fundamentally different that they cannot understand one another. And I was like, yes, comedic. I will find a way to make this comedic for myself. And that did it. That was it. My very first skits where there was no continuity, there was no plan of the characters having names or them amounting to anything other than just like one off. Like I'll make a joke about them using chocolate to kill a werewolf because a werewolf's basically a dog. So the barbarian thinks that way and thinks it'll work, and it does. Like little things like that. And then I just had nothing else to do really, so I just jumped down the rabbit hole. I was like, you know what? I'm gonna give them names. I'm gonna give them backstories. I'm gonna figure out what level they are, what class, like specifically, a subclass, like everything about them. And so I did that, and it's been great. It's been a lot of fun because it's helped entertain me and apparently other people, from what I'm told.
There were so many amazing things that you said there. Like you just really broke down the OC process for a lot of people, I think, right, Parker? Yeah, I see Parker nodding, because that is like, you're like, I'm just doing this for a bit, and then 100 TikToks later, you're like, this is a person that I've breathed life into on the internet.
Like, I thought way too much about this, but he's here now. This is what he is.
Oh, that's amazing. I also very much appreciate your commentary on the creative process of TikTok, which is just like, this is a bit.
Yeah.
I could do that.
I could do this.
Yeah,
I could do that.
Yeah, that's the best.
That's always what it is.
It really is. It's profound. Okay, Parker, I think you've got the last question here, my friend.
I do have the last question, so make sure that you're highlighting questions in chat. Friends. All right. So, what is your biggest hobby outside of D&D and TTRPGs?
Ooh.
A good question.
That's an excellent question. It's so open-ended. I hate to be that like travel is my life and everything, especially now that I can't really travel as much as I used to anymore, but my hobby was basically like camping and road tripping and stuff like that. I would just find work contracts around North America, Canada, and just go drive out to them, work for like 2 months. I worked in like the polar bear capital of the world. I've worked up in the Yukon under like the midnight sun. I sang and played guitar in a Celtic dinner theater on the east coast of Canada, like right in Halifax. And I would just drive and sleep in my car for months and months in between all that. And like make pals traveling. I played D&D in like an old bar in Halifax with a bunch of other bartenders, like after hours. And the campaign was taking place in a haunted brewery and stuff. And I've played D&D with like a bunch of friends of mine who are bouncers, like up in the Yukon, who worked at Canada's first casino. And yeah, just stuff like that. So D&D has always been a huge hobby of mine. I've carried that around with me pretty much everywhere I go. But just traveling and spending time in between places and like doing a lot of stuff outside. I mountain bike, and when I have the opportunity to, I love kayaking, canoeing, and really just like camping places, being outside.
It's really poignant to like think that. So a lot of people are like, I need my space for D&D, and I like need that basement that I know. You've just traveled and found it. You've made that experience. That's really cool. Oh man. Okay, there's questions pouring in, but I will say there's one in here before we get started that just says, please elaborate on your Celtic dinner theater experience.
I would
please.
also like to know. Yeah.
So I basically it's a long story, but I wanted to work as a wildland firefighter up in the Yukon, and I had the date and everything set for it. I actually rented a house up there with my girlfriend at the time, and then I had to drive across the country to get there. I stopped in Winnipeg and met some friends. I drove out to like British Columbia, like on the far coast of Canada in the Rockies, and it was just so beautiful. I loved it. And I was right by the ocean, and I was like, I kind of want to go to the ocean for a bit. So I did that, and I went camping, and I saw like pods of orca whales swimming into like canals and the freshwater streams, and it was amazing. There was waterfalls everywhere and technically rainforest areas, and I was late for my job in the Yukon, and I missed the training date, so I didn't get it. And I had a house there though, rented for me. So I was like, you know what? I'll find a different job. Took me like 10 minutes, walked into a casino. I was like, hey, I'm looking for a job. They're like, you can be security. You're giant. And I was like, do you need a background check, references, criminal, anything? They're like, no, it's okay. You can count the money. I'm like, yeah, I can. I am trustworthy, but you shouldn't be trusting me like this. For your own safety, like when I'm gone, please change this process. So I did that, and the casino had live performances every night, like 3 of them. They had can dancers and live singers and stuff, and I hit it off with the singers because I was a thespian in high school. I'm very theatrical in all things, which ties directly to D&D and getting that comfort from it. But they told me, they're like, hey, you don't have a bad voice. Like you could come probably travel with us. Why don't you audition for this thing out in Halifax and see if you get it? Didn't get the role in that musical that year, but then the next year I applied for it again. It was a Celtic dinner show that took place on Grafton Street Dinner Theater in Halifax. Highly recommend when the pandemic's over. Go there. It's wonderful. You stay in character the entire time. So I was I was an oil sands tycoon while I was there. I was actually like one of the few non-Celtic characters. I was from Texas, so I used the Texas accent the entire time and would serve guests and like serve drinks and everything, and also sing and play guitar, all while staying in character for like 3 hours a night, and it was fantastic.
That sounds like fun.
Wow, what an experience.
Yeah. That's fun.
Yukon too. God, there's so much romance behind that. Oh, that's cool.
Okay, so I'm gonna break in my painting, so you're good to go, Josh. I'll read questions.
Oh, thanks, boss.
The Auburn Alchemist asks, has there been a character or moment in game that impacted you significantly in real life?
Ooh, definitely. I think more recently, I played in a campaign on Somewhere Bound where I came in as a character already like deeply tied to somebody else who was playing because I was their brother. And I kind of flipped this role of they wanted to have this character who had like a drama-free background, and they came from like a very comfortable place. And then I talked to the DM about it, and I talked to them about it a bit, and I was like, I'm gonna ruin all of that. It's gonna be there's gonna be so much turmoil now, and ended up really taking this character and putting him on like a dark path. But it worked super well for the story and developing that other character. And so after that, I was speaking with the player a bit, and we decided that we would just start writing like almost fanfic about like things going on, more of the background, flushing it out. And so that small it was like a little guest appearance that I had ended up having huge ramifications and like getting me back into writing. And that's something that I've been spending hours doing almost every day, is like writing again. And all of that just came from D&D reigniting that sort of passion and that hobby of mine.
That's so awesome.
Cool.
Yeah.
I always love how much fun it is to create characters and stories with people. I like the collaborative storytelling part in D&D is just so unique when you're usually writing by yourself. It's so nice.
Oh, so valid, Parker.
So, let's see. Mythalidor asks, I love this question. If you could cast Find Familiar in real life, what would your familiar be?
A raven, I think. There's something that, and of course there's like a little one on the patch I'm sewing right now. But they're just so intelligent and cool. I'm a fan of Norse mythology. It was one of those things that I latched onto at a very young age and had like a deep love for. And as far as versatility goes, I want my familiar to be able to fly. Talk? Sure. I want them to be able to talk. And also just aesthetically, ravens are beautiful. They're fantastic. It would go with all of my outfits.
Yeah. My Pathfinder witch has a raven familiar, and they're just so much fun.
Oh, yeah.
Jin.
I love her. Bronwyn's a dick. I love that raven. What is your... Oh, so this is Mr. Shikadance asked, what is your favorite source of inspiration to steal from for D&D purposes?
Ooh. It's fantasy books. It's I know that's a broad like blanket term, but realistically,
You're about to ask the question that I feel you're about to ask.
I just want to know which fantasy books. I'm just curious.
I'm a
your
huge
tops?
fan of Brandon Sanderson.
Yes. Sorry, big fan.
So this is an Inquisitor from Mistborn, the skull of one with the iron spikes. That's actually Pattern and Sill. So
Oh my
Cryptid
god!
and Sill. That's my Bridge 4
You got the
tattoo right there. That's Nightblood.
You legend! Oh my god! I had no idea. The Sill and Pattern particularly. My god, dude. And the Bridge 4, that's so in canon.
It's a classic. It's where Moash got it, so but the placement he chose was good because I was not going to do it on my forehead.
Fair, valid. Yeah, you don't want that. Yeah, on that real estate there.
Yeah, and then Patrick Rothfuss, The Name of the Wind.
Nice.
Name of the Wind.
So those are the talent pipes from that, and I've still got plans for more. I have a big Lord of the Rings back tattoo as well, and Sindarin like script down my shoulder. Most of my tattoos, they don't look super nerdy unless you get me talking about them, and I like that. I like that like
blend into normal
sneaky
society, but also that one person's gonna be like, "Is that thing from?"
And
that
that's
thing?
what happens. Yeah,
Those
and
are-
I get that question sometimes, and then I'm just like, yeah, no,
I feel like you
it's
said
actually.
both Josh and Sean's favorite fantasy like things to pull from in the same breath.
You
I
did,
enjoy
literally. Like, you've got tattoos for our two favorite fantasy worlds, and it's amazing, man.
that. And mine. It's on your back.
Yes, that's right. God, you got that. You're charming all of us, is what
Welcome
we're
in,
saying.
honestly.
Yeah.
Welcome in.
God damn. Oh, that's so good.
Jeez. Maniac asks, what is your favorite moment when either you and or your party broke the dungeon master? Also, the most favorite natural 1 or natural 20 while playing a session.
Oh boy, breaking the dungeon master. So most of the time, I end up as the dungeon master. That's been everything up until like the past year when I've been jumping into people's streams as a player. But I liked. There was a moment that happened again in Somewhere Bound that's still fresh in my mind because it's happened more recently, where I basically said that my character was going to take an action and I was going through it and I stated that's what I was doing, and the dungeon master stopped me. And they slowed everything down. They rolled it back. They're like, okay, the lightning that you called down doesn't come right away. And you hear this ominous sound from the messengers of this god. And it sounds like you shouldn't do this thing. Okay? Do you still want to do it? And then my character, this like really hardcore, inspired by a lot of 40k grimdark stuff, is just, to the righteous I bring hope. And to the tainted, I bring fire, and calls down the lightning anyways, and just completely left field. Everything that had sort of been like thought would happen in that session flipped right around, and that was beautiful. I also had a character player roll 3 consecutive 20s back in 3.5 edition, and that's the only time that I've got to break out one of my house rules for 3.5, because that's back when you had to confirm criticals, which I know is like a lot of people don't like that. They want to roll the 20 and then that's a critical. But back then, if you rolled the 20, you have to see if it is a critical. So you roll again, and all you have to do is meet their AC. And then if you do, it is a critical. It's confirmed to be that. But my house rule was if you roll a 20 again, then you get to roll a third time. And if you get 3 consecutive 20s, instantly dead. Just like Smog and like the Black Arrow. Just like by happenstance,
That one
it could
thing.
be a tiny goblin with like a glass shard, and he could take out a gold dragon just because it was the perfect throw or it was the perfect stab. And I had a character take out the BBEG from like almost full health just because they rolled 3 consecutive 20s. And I was like, that's it. Yeah, no, that's gonna... Let me just describe this real quick. So
Just don't do it.
That's so cool. That's a very good way of handling that, too. That's a really neat, like, flavorful element. And it's at the tabletop, right? Like, this was in person, I assume.
Yeah. Yeah, it was. This was in the Yukon. Yeah. Not that that has any relevance, but...
Well, Yukon Gold, I assume, was...
Yes. Yeah.
Let's see. Blink, I'm not ignoring your question, but we did answer that one already, actually. The least favorite class to play. Do you want to give us a short thing about that? Yep.
Monk, fast, but not strong enough.
Let's see. Auburn Alchemist asks, speaking of writing, do you dabble outside of fantasy, high fantasy genres?
No, actually. I write really awful poetry that no one is allowed to read except for me, and then when I die, hopefully it's deleted from my computer. But that and fantasy is basically it.
You got that one friend who's like, okay, you can't read this. I need you to nuke this when I
Yeah, that one friend who has your password, and it's like, this is actually just for my poetry. Like, I don't care about the rest of the stuff on my computer.
The 1%,
poetry, just the folder. You can't just delete it.
Mm-hmm. Do not look. Just delete.
It's
in the folder titled Nickelback lyrics. The check there.
No one would check. Oh my god.
Oh my god. Amazing.
Chat, we still have some time, so feel free to throw your questions in. I'm going to steal one that we usually get, and I'm forgetting who usually sends it in. Do you know which one I'm talking about, Josh? If you could play any D&D monster as a character, what would you want to be?
Oh, yeah. I think that might be Rodolfo.
Is it?
Maybe, I don't know.
I'm trying to remember whose it was.
Great question.
Might be
that is a
Hound,
great question.
But
Vault.
For me,
thank you, Azur.
For me personally, I think that especially if it was something that was going to be streamed, I'm very into like just using my name for things, and I'd like to do a Griffin. They're pretty intelligent. You could talk to like a druid. They also understand everything going on. Maybe the Griffin has like a tablet they scratch things on to communicate with the party, but so long as it's outdoors, that'd be a fun time.
That'd be really cool. Having a flight speed, big ass talons.
Mm-hmm.
Fair. Let's see. Community M asks, what sort of class concept that doesn't already exist in D&D would you like to see added?
Death Knight.
A Death
Like
Knight?
from World of Warcraft. I actually created a 3.5 class that was a pure ripoff of a bunch of the abilities in World of Warcraft that surround the Death Knight, which is basically somebody who manipulates runes and dark energy to effectively achieve the same thing you get from like an anti-paladin, basically like an unholy warrior, with a lot of flavor related to death, then things that are like blood magic, unholy magic, and frost magic. Mm-hmm. And so it was my own creation that came of that was pretty good, actually. I might actually go back and revisit my notes to make it more suitable for 5e, because that is something I haven't seen that I think could be really cool, so long as it's like well balanced. But again, the underlying class gives a lot of like cool character options for flavor, and I think that one fits really nicely for somebody who, I called it a death bringer, and they're like obsessed with death. They're like just very zealous when it comes to that.
So Blizzard doesn't sue you.
So that Blizzard doesn't sue me.
Of course, yeah.
Dude, there's so much flavor. You said death, and I'm a Death Knight main. I immediately think an anti-magic aura, like anti-magic shell, right? Like,
you know what? I probably have this in my phone. I'll look up briefly my old Deathbringer class that I have.
That's so good.
Because it had an anti-magic thing, too.
Oh, that's amazing. That's so good. All right, if you do customize this, let me know. I want to see it on 5e. I want to, yeah.
I'll send you the whole thing. I just found the entire like file that I'd written on it,
Oh, you're a
But-
legend. Thank you,
You
man.
guys should do some sort of
Yeah.
house special where you two just make World of Warcraft things into D&D.
Yeah,
You want to do that? You want to come on the stream and do that?
I'd be so down.
Yeah?
Absolutely.
Hell yes. Okay, cool. Well, at some point we'll do a house special. We'll make some Warcraft classes into D&D classes. Thanks, Parker.
Deal.
You're welcome.
That's a
add it
brilliant
to the
plan.
schedule.
Thank you for that.
Cremaniac asks, what's the weirdest item you or your party have found and the best way you used that item? It's the weirdest item.
Ooh. Weirdest item that my party ever found. I don't have the most experience as a player. I gave one of my players an item that I thought was like a hilarious thing. It was a ring of invisibility, but it didn't turn you invisible. It just blinded everybody around you within 90 feet if they failed a Constitution saving throw. And so he had this rogue and this ring that, like, as soon as you put it on and you're sneaking in somewhere, they're gonna know something's up. But they can't find you. And they don't know what's going on.
I can't find
So
That's so good.
so that was a good one. That ring of invisibility was really great.
Quote, unquote.
And then I also had a key that I gave to a player that basically would turn any door into a portal to like a safe room, like this interdimensional. It was like a better bag of holding for if you had like a lot of stuff. It was like a key of now I own a warehouse, more or less.
I just homebrewed this spell for 5e, my friend. I'm going to send it to you. I'm not even
Oh.
kidding.
Yeah,
Nice.
Salvatore's little corner of the world.
Yeah. Leomund's Labyrinthian Locker, I called it.
I like the alliteration
Yeah,
a lot.
yeah.
That's beautiful.
Sorry, that's a
way better than
fantastic
my
spell.
name.
Wait, what did you call it? Oh,
Can't even remember. It was word vomit. It was awful.
oh, that's so good.
I'm
though,
trying to
man.
remember what Sean renamed it.
Salvatore's
Solitary Salon or something? Like
Spacious
something like
Study,
that.
something like
Spacious
that.
Study, there we
Yeah.
go. With something fancy.
Yes. We have a wizard in the campaign that I run that takes all of the canonical spells and renames them after himself. And the Circle of the Eight from Greyhawk exists, so he's stealing spells from the Circle and renaming them, and it's so good. He also comes up with his own spells that are also, but it's just a very tasty bit. Very well
Oh
done.
my gosh.
No, it's
Let's-
beautiful.
Alright, so Oddsboy asks, best item in the style... Oh gosh, hold on. It teleports itself and not the user. Oh, he's saying that a ring of teleportation that teleports itself and not the user. Like a bunch of
Gotcha.
joke ones that are so... Okay, it wasn't
Yeah.
a question. It got highlighted and I was confused.
Yeah, like the
But-
stone of detection. Like
I'm just
if you
picturing-
hold it aloft and you drop it, it will tell you no matter what plane you're on which direction gravity is pulling.
I'm
So
picturing...
it's gravity.
I'm picturing like a magic shop that's like a joke magic shop, you know, like magic shops we have, but it's full of items that are sold the same names as items you want, but they all do something similar enough. Like your ring would be there, and like but it's just a bunch of joke magic items. That's what I'm picturing.
Yeah, like a rod of mind reading, but you can only
Read
use
your
it
own
to
mind?
read your own mind.
Yeah.
Things like that. Like
Yeah.
the holder of it can read the mind of whoever's holding it, but only one person can ever use it and hold it.
And a movable rod that literally can only be one place. That's it.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
really good.
It's immovable. Like you said it, and that's it.
So something that ties into the vein of that has always, whenever people talk about time travel, I think about how useless and just deadly that would be to have as an ability or a power or like magic if it's not time and space, because of the fact that like the universe is expanding and the Earth is rotating. So if realistically, if you were to time travel any amount of time, you're gonna wind up someplace you probably aren't supposed to be.
Yeah.
So.
Fair.
Yeah, you could have like a scroll of time travel that takes somebody back to just the void.
Yeah.
You know, there's all kinds of all kinds of things that you can do when you exaggerate things or take them too literally.
Yeah, you just make it sound really fancy, and then in
Yeah.
application, it's nothing or everything in the worst possible way.
Yeah.
So we have one more question, I think, before we're done, but this is a very good question. Community M asks, setting and feel is incredibly important in D&D. So what sort of setting do you like to run / play in? High fantasy, grimdark, modern fantasy?
I would place myself as somebody very comfortable within high fantasy. That is my preferred literature. It's what I end up consuming the most of when I'm reading. And then I feel like it's just a very spacious environment for a lot of bits of other ideas to come in. Like if you're running a high fantasy campaign, a leg of it can be kind of grimdark, and you can have sections of it that are fairly modern. But I also like the idea of, I myself am a fairly chaotic person. And I think that the high fantasy area and realm has room in it for other little tropes and smaller things to exist, and I like to have little bits of each of them.
That's valid. It gives a lot of room to explore a lot of things.
Yeah.
Smart.
Okay. A question popped up afterwards, so we'll call this one our last one. Cremaniac, what have your players done to surprise you with a plan that shouldn't have worked but did? What's your favorite shouldn't have worked but did? You can certainly try story.
There's been a few of those. There was a lich that my players were up against, and his whole thing was that he was the deceiver. That was like his moniker. He was kind of like a Sauron type character. He was just very tricky, and so he explained to them, like during a monologue in the beginning of their campaign, that he had actually 3 phylacteries that were all tied to other liches, and he was like, haha, you'll never get me because you have to kill all of them first. And after killing 2 of these liches and destroying their phylacteries, one of my players just realized, like, guys, I don't think that's possible. I think he lied to us. Like, I think that we're... And they just stopped all their plans to kill, like, the 3rd lich and just teamed up with him and went after this guy, because they talked to the 3rd lich about it, and he's like, no, that guy's, like, my enemy. And they're like, oh, dang it. Like, we could have had even more people against him if, So, little bits of investigation, completely rewriting campaign story structure. It's beautiful to see that happen. There was also a time that my party got really, like, gold rich, and I expected them to go in and blow it all on magic items like normal people would. They invested in their own inn. Called the Crooked Bishop, and then most of the campaign just became them buying upgrades for it, hiring staff, and doing renovations, which was beautiful because they weren't always there all the time, but the ones who were around wanted to play constantly, and so we had a ton of sessions where, like, just 3 of the 4 players would come over, and they'd be like, no, the sorcerer is studying in the library, but we're here and we're gonna have an event tonight that is a dance party. And then it's them, like, getting glitter dust and reagents and holding a contest and seeing who shows up and who wins.
That's so good. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Is that like us building our armada?
You're slowly
Josh,
gaining an armada of ships that I can't stop. Oh, amazing.
The girl has 3 ships.
Just keep adding those. So, Griffin, thank you. This was amazing. You were a delight to speak to. We're going to throw out a few quick announcements, just some follow-up things, and then we're going to ask you to tell everyone where to find you. But real quick, thank you to our amazing partners, the first of whom, of course, is Soundtail. They've been with us since the beginning. They bring all that amazing ambiance to all of our shows. Guys, you can get a copy of Soundtail on the App Store. You can get it on your computer. It's got peer-to-peer sharing, all kinds of amazing functions. We highly recommend it. Best, just really, really good. So check out Soundtail. Of course, Arcane Anthems, our second partner, who makes all those amazing intro songs you hear during our shows, and also a bunch of D&D 5e music that you can bring to your tabletops. It's free. If you go over to his Patreon, take a look at that. It's there available for you. He's got a merch store and stuff like that, too. Check it out. Amazing member of the community. Can't thank him enough. Parker, what you got?
I'm here to remind you that we're affiliated with Found Familiar Coffee, so if you want to taste Initiative, stay awake during your D&D games, you can use our code in chat for 10% off.
And of course, last but not least, a huge thank you to our mods who work really hard in all of our shows to keep our community super safe, super special. We love y'all helping with highlighting the questions here, helping us out, making everything happen. You guys are the best. Now, Griffin, where can the people find you one more time?
TikTok and Instagram. Griffin.d. Not that creative. I'm fairly creative sometimes, though, so worth checking out. I'll see you there. But yeah, thank you guys so much. This was just lovely. I forgot we were streaming at times, and
just chill it out.
Folks,
my favorite part about this show.
Yeah,
it's so chill.
I forgot I was stitching too. Realistically, I got one thing done.
Okay, I was gonna ask. We usually ask how much got. I made some feet, and I'm like, "That's not Parker. How'd you do?" Nice.
His base is painted, so that's nice.
Yeah, he's base painted. Perfect.
He's getting there.
How far did you get, Griffin?
I got this one on. It's stitched on.
Beautiful.
That's something.
All right, everybody. Griffin, thank you again. Everyone, stay with us. We're going to raid somebody. Who knows? We'll find out in a minute. But we'll see you all on Friday for Off the Rails.
Bye guys.
And you're out, my